over here that uh, it can be an example to be described as a subjective and universal for the taste no, of the beauty is matter. That subjective is taste does not focus on the properties of the object itself, but rather on the pleasure one experience as he responds to it. Would you imagine a same case no that na pwede nating sabihin an example is yung you experience but then another person you're talking to is hindi niya naman really that understand because he doesn't have any an experience or an idea of something that gives him a pleasure one to make a beautiful for him this kind such of an art forms. But definitely, it is subjectively taste that because of the experience and at the same time that is pleasurable for him to understand better the use of being subjective tasting and a focus on one and experiences and ideas. And more so, it is not only lie or lay on the properties of an object. So it should have also more on the experience and how is it being entertained and the entire and the rest one of the art forms. So, let's take a look at an example of another one. Let's say yung ating mga nakikitang mga bagay, diba? Mga simple objects that we create something, a better experience and pleasure and ideas to us to make a meaningful and beautifully to our eyes and our hearts yung isang object. But, of course, it somehow lay on our weighing on how is it being expressed and how is it being interpreted by our minds. So that is not only lies. Kaya nga sabi dito, it does only no focus on the properties of the object, but itself, pleasure and experience. And even small things can create no as an experience and pleasurable for us to make us no yung subjective taste that make that may create and feel us no a better one doon sa isang experiences na understand natin no from such experience. Next, a universal taste is non-aesthetic and does not consider the beauty of the work or the mastery of the artist. So very evident that consider over here that universal taste non-aesthetic. So this is not based on what how we see, how is it look, and how is it being amazed on us on each characteristics or art forms, colors, and any different ways of how it's being done or being displayed on us. But rather, the artwork is appreciated for what it is. So meaning to say, in appreciating an artwork in universal taste, it is something to do with how is it appreciated and how is it being dealt with us in appreciating one thing in making us a part and become a valuable to our culture, to our nation, or a part of our life itself. We, the Filipinos, have a different kinds of an artwork that we appreciate it for what it is. So for example, that we have is yung mga ginawa natin and making such makes us a better one or a person one no na pwede nating i-consider right now in the pandemic like yung pag-giving lang ng simple dance music doon sa inyong mga in-upload is something with the appreciation of an artwork itself. It is not more on considering the aesthetic that how is it beautifully and you amaze of the more thing is you appreciate it is because you make us happy. You make us happy. You make us or bring us happiness for everyone. That tell us that this problem or pandemic, no, something to do with our the daily lives lang naman and much more is something with the ano yung pwede na i-appreciate in making us life no today. Like for example, meron pang isa yung mga students ko from the hotel and restaurant management the way that create no yung before they really want not to go outside just to eat and to have fun but now they are stay at home and they consider no right now yung mga beauty of an artwork of the piece of the material that being used no in preparation of making a food. It's something to do with only aesthetic but more than appreciation of that is the meaning and the deep one of what is art for them and make them feel no a good as itself no meron tayo in appreciating artwork. Very an intangible one ideas of how is it being described by your teacher, but it is more on rather on the appreciation of such thing. So somehow with the beauty of the matter of taste, as if given an example by Kant over here in the presentation. Next, we have color. That the color for him is nothing to do with the properties of this object, no, but it's only used for decorative function. Yes, it is true for him, no, that it is philosophy only that it's only a decorative, no, or a part of a function of which design of composition itself. But when we talk about the psychology of colors, we only looks like only we only looks no only the color itself no dito sa color na dinidescribe ni Kant. But in psychology of colors, we have colors that interpreted that give us meaning for us to develop our understanding to make this one meaningful no and create an ideas how is it being interpreted and makes us an idea of creating a response with them, no? So the color of psychology is represent that color is not only for anger for red, no, na may red tayo. And yung red is color is a color with something that is love. And the color is something to do with could be in a blood. So we have different meaning of how we put the color in the properties and as such of the way we understand the meaning of it. But for Immanuel Kant, it is only a decorative or a function. Yes, it is in harmony of putting them together to create such an art that we make a pleasurable and meaningful for us. But it is only for him and a decorative and the design of the composition of the entire work of an art. So you can also address the color itself, no, for Kant that it is a less play role, less idea, less a concept that describe more to the artwork itself. So that properties in such object of color is only a decorative function. So there are two kinds of aesthetics that he responses no, in his philosophy by Kant. That number one, beauty results in pleasure if there is order, harmony, symmetry. So let's take a look at an example of, let's say, yung music. That the music is having an order, having an ascending and descending one, having an order of the introduction, yung verse nila, yung ating chorus, then the end, no? Yung interlude natin, having an harmony of the elements no, of how is it being put no, the tone, the music itself, no? And the symmetry, no, putting them, no, how is it being looks no, in the way of balance ba, in the way of imbalance, no, etc. Then, and if a noise is not a kind of music, then there is no order, there is no harmony and symmetry. So to make sure to look on that one, but to make it pleasurable to our eyes, it should have order and harmony. So it's like that what I mentioned, an example of yung noise doesn't have any idea of order. Kasi ang noise naman is something to do that we can create something that can let's say disturb us, that cannot be concentrate to us because of many loud noises, loud voices outside, and different na form of noise na meron tayo naririnig. So, yun yung pwede natin makita when it comes to beauty results to an art and pleasurable one. But number two, beauty leads to a response of a way that overwhelms the viewers of the art. But it's true. Many of us, we think about yung arts, it's something to do with the pleasurable. It is because something to do with, let's say, you amazed because of the properties, the way how is it being formed, the way it is being, how it is created and wonderful for us, and until it's being created and still existing. But more so, in number two, it is leading in the response of an overwhelming of the beauty on the viewers of arts. So, minsan, we take a look na an example of yung mga arts na pwede natin mabasa, mapanood, makita, no, by the sense of our senses that play on our interpretation. So, that can create a response of a way of overwhelming in the viewers of art. And more so, itong beauty na to, it's something to do with how we explain and understand better that this one is for you is an amazing creation of an art that leading to a response of wow, it's so amazing and a great one for us. No, that is not because it is a part of the culture of the history, but more so it's something that everyone explain and everyone can relate and everyone can describe furthermore and this thing is surely a beautiful one, no, that created by an artist, no, na meron tayo. So it is possible also, no, that everyone can create, no, and can lead to a response of a way of how you overwhelmed with such what you see in your pictures of an idea of an art for this. But more so, yung idea of beauty leads to a response, it's something to do that what we experience. Now, something to do with how is it feel and the aesthetics of the beauty itself. Like in the nature that we have. So in the beauty of the leads on the nature, makikita natin yung response, yung calmness, yung excitement, no? Yung feeling of amaze doon sa mga creatures na nakita mo within the surroundings that you visited, no, before, or not visited right now, that you've been seen in the picture or even in the other photos, no, and etc. That makes us overwhelming doon sa viewers ng isang particular art form that we see, no, in our experiences. Next, we have artists and artisans. So in artists and artisans, they differ in each other. Let's take a look first on artists. We are all known that artist is something that called with the person who exhibit exceptional skills. Then again, an artist should have possess of this kind of skills. But to make, no, a proud of and to make you a best one of the artists, you must have possess this exhibit an exceptional one. So what do you mean by exhibit exceptional one skills? It's something that we learn, something that we get from somebody, and something that we let's say that we harness our talents and skills. Then later on, it become eventually an exceptional one for you and among others, no. And you have this kind of skills. But more so, we have also in making, in the performing, no, and in visual arts also, in the respective, no, art forms, no, that we see it we can create. And unlike other people, artists are more sensitive. That artist is sensitive, and that's why they came from get, no, an idea of something that make them create and aware of surroundings. As like what I said from the earlier discussion from the previous meetings, that very perceptive and way of making, and the sense of how do we create and become a creative one in the uniqueness of such art form that we have an idea to, let's say, to uh, to produce or to make something one, no. Kasi that is the subject, no, na meron tayo, that the artist will always produce and consume for its a society, that art used by man, and man use these arts na meron tayo. And medium, words, pigments, clay, stone, musical, a combination of those maybe represent this message. So these are the possible things that you can create. I am not saying that everyone can create, not that the medium of words, pigments in combination of it, but it has, no, a unique one to distinguish to them that we have. That the medium of words is more on the literary arts, that the pigment something to do with the painting or the painters, no, or the visual arts, while on the clay, stone, it's more on the sculpture or many sculptor one, no, and the artist of musical notes is more on the musics and musicians, and it's a combination of many things that we have to convey in the message of what you want to perceive to other people. And it's a form and a substance that can create, and that substance is an experience and a form that will embed to them, to put them in a meaning, to create an idea of such how is it being portrayed, to give this a life that will you imagine something, right? So next is on his media fits the nature of material chosen so as to give the work spontaneity and perfect harmony, putting them together. Well, yes, because it is creativeness and creature of an create of by a man, and by putting them their knowledge and skills. How is it being portrayed now on such a way of pleasurable for him, and that's a masterpiece for an person who exhibit exceptional skills, like other artists that we have right now. Okay, so while artisan is something with the skilled trade that involves making things by hand, a skilled trade something to do with the things that yung mga people with great hands in making their masterpiece, and these are and functional and decorative arts can also be connected to a creative manner of portraying of an art, because an art is to create, no, an decorative and functional art, and relies on the exhibit and exceptional skills, and more so that involves in making things by hand. So it is not only limited on the making of hands, but yes, this is one of the main major use ng ating mga hands to create something that is unskillful, no, or an exceptional skills for us as an artisan one. But right now it's a complex, no, we are composed of body, no, of having an hands, the foot or the feet that we have, then we have our mouth, and etc. No, so it is not only limited by things making by hand, but a substitute by making use of different parts of our body. Why? Because some of our artists right now are striving more than yung kanang superiority, and instead of their inferiority of the yung kanilang mga kapansanan, that makes them feel, no, hopeless. Kaya nagiging inferior sila. But in making a superiority, take a look people who are good, no, in making, no, in arts. Like take a look, for example, yung ating sa binigay na painting ni yung isang artist, no, not really an artist one, but an artist that have exceptional skills, that he can create yung picture ni Pope Francis, no. He drew and he paint, no, and in a gift for Pope Francis. That it doesn't have any kinds of hands that normally like us, that in the normal way that we put, no, and we work together. Not limited to that one, and particularly on the technique and the medium that being created by an artist. So very exceptional because of such putting them a technique that differ from another people or another artist that has a technique in portraying. So that is why we have many ways of presenting an artwork or subject, no, and the medium that we use in creating an art. So we have different ways, no, in making us and expressing our self, and maybe represent, no, a best representation of an artwork. And artisan is handmade products of skilled artisans, no, and it is because handmade works or skilled artisans, that's why it is priced more than the commercial factory made products. Then again, it is as I said earlier, no, it is takes time to work or to finish one, just to have you a 1 month to to give me an time to in order for you to deliver the such kind of artwork, etc. Like what we have in Paete Laguna, if you want to have a kind of an artwork, no, and personalized, no, type of sculpture, then you have to wait for several time, you have several weeks, no, or days, just to have it, no, yung request na yung personalized type of an art, because these are handmade that being produced by somebody by skillful with a good hands in creating such of an artworks, no, doing making in creating and creativity. So some art of place that we have is the ceramic makers of TV Albay, and the basket weavers of Pangasinan, and pinya weavers of Calibaclan. So ito yung mga could be an example of great works that made by hand that cannot be done by an factory products, no, that handmade or products of skilled artisans, that it takes na a time and a period of need some of days, months, or years kung gagawin pa. Let's take a look of example yung ating mga artisans that we have before, yung Sagrada Familia in Spain. So it takes, no, several years and era na kung papansin natin. So tagal niya bago magawa it, because it is handmade the products of skilled artisans. Like what we have, no, in making yung ating mga cross stitch. So it takes time. So it doesn't like have like in the products of in the factory, like yung paggawa ng mga machines. Okay? So compare on that one. So that is why it is more pricey than dun sa commercial one that we have. So next, we have different art forms. So in art forms, you are also familiar with this different, now that I'll be going to present to you. But what would be the uniqueness now of the following of this? So let's take a look first muna natin itong mga meaning natin. So painting, it's an application of pigment to a surface, unique technique employed by artists, and the kind of medium that was used. Yes, going back to our discussion earlier, yung artist and artisan, it's something to do with our art forms today. Without an artist, painting cannot be created by these exceptional skills that will create a delight one and beautiful to our eyes. And what would be amazed and a way of our way of living and today's it's still valuable and have a real meaning na tinatawag natin. And next thing is, a painting is not only an application of pigment right now. So we have many ways of presenting a painting. We have different mediums, the techniques. We have so many ways right now in making an art. So katulad dati, ang painting, so creating, sabi nila, your professor will ask you to create in the fine arts to have a similar way of creation of the, let's say, surrealism painting. And since this an art forms no is and painting, but now we can create no, a painting through surrealism photo that you can create no, something that could be a realism, a part of it. The subject we are presenting of arts and more so. And this thing is more on the two-dimensional art form because it is a flat surface. So while we compare to three-dimensional art form, something with the dimensionally many perspective and has a lot of the up, the down, the side by side, no, the back, and the aerial view one that we have in the three-dimensional one. Like what we have, yung mga arts natin na tinatawag natin last time, yung plastic arts, no? So these are the three-dimensional one, like yung mga architecture natin, sculpture, no? Yung mga standing natin, or standing, or freestand. Next is the sculpture one. And the technique of sculpture, we have molding. You can create in molding by using your clay, that's such a medium of. Carving, you can carve by using the chisels. You have to exert force, you have to put force no, for you to be able to carve yung pinaka medium that you use, like what have, yung wood or yung stone. No? And yung welding, that is a metal, that is a technique that you created, no? They will put that together, and right now we have many architecture or sculpture that made by metal, the medium, and the technique is by welding. The casting and assembling, something to do with having a mold, creating uh, and ways of yung form, yung parang pino-formula pa siya, yung meron siyang way of pagagayahan. So, next is yung assembling naman is yung putting them together and then you create something that is more than on that one no, in such different made of materials. No, like yung metal, no, like the what we have the available no, in resources in this time. So the eyes is one of the most thing that we can amaze no that eyes no created by the sculptor and sculpture created na glass and plastic that have the most popular now and when it comes to the medium right now because since the wood is hindi naman po pwedeng deforestation diba? So stone we are under the limited way of since we are rich naman in different stone but then again it's them too hard to get one no tong stone na meron tayo but in the precious gems or yung other mga stones like mga marble na syempre it takes time and kailangan din ng money no and what we have is the Tolentino's Bonifacio Monument no, if you are familiar with that so this is one of the greatest sculpture that being made no, and until now this is still present no or being can you see no in the area of Manila. Then in Michelangelo's yung the David niya. So that is a good na character also yung ginawa rin ni Michelangelo si David no. And one of this prominent work of this is the Pieta or the La Pieta no that's portraying of the picture of Mary and then laying down sa hands niya sa bisig niya si Jesus Christ no of one of the story of our Roman Catholicism no, idea no story and while architecture is the most functional of art forms it is because it's being used it is being we live into diba like what we have like our houses this is our domestic houses that we protect from any any natural calamities from the hot and the cold one, no, and etc. No, and architecture is not only the forms of the domestic one. We have also the entertainment. No, we have the worship. No, yung mga churches. We have also yung mga malls, yung mga theaters. No, we have also in different forms ng pwedeng factory, like the means of our money and producing, no, an economics one na meron tayo. And many forms pa, like the defense one that we have in architecture. So that is why it's being created as called or defined as most functional of the art forms that we have. So designs for building infrastructures. So yes, that the architect, no, that the one who designs, no, for the buildings and infrastructures that we have right now. Many, no. So when it comes to designs for the buildings, it describes not only for how many floors, how many rooms, or how many people can accommodate, or what is this purpose, no, for this an architecture, no, that you are designing for. So it's a convention ba, like an Philippine Arena, no, like other architecture right nowadays, no, that most, no, known for these best works. And engineers is the one who contractors and skilled workers. After putting them the idea of giving the designs with the building, no, na meron tayong the structures, while the engineer will the contractors and skilled workers will be done now to work for its designs. That's an idea before in the drawing, that right now it will become eventually an a part of make another visible one and tangible for us, no, to live for and to use for, no. Like for example of that is the CCP, no, in Manila, and the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So these are the great ones, no, work of our times, and great a passion of in the architecture one. If you want to, no, to visit them, kung gusto nyo lang, and if you want to see in the Google arts that we have. While the music is a song through the use of instrument or combination of both. Yes, of course. But if you are more on the instruments or using in more instruments, no, with having a kind of a song, no, and alone music na instrument or yung ating background music lang na meron tayo. It's more on the musician one, no? And the music is something that we accompanied by an instrument or a melody with, no, with harmony and rhythm that gives us, no, a beautiful music, no, that become a delight for our ears, no, so actually our mind to become a relaxation, or it's a part of musical therapy one, no, in art. And one of the most, no, a good, no, example of this is the Philippines Kundiman, and the work of Beethoven, the symphonies, yung number 5 sa outside in the foreign one. While yung dance naman natin is body movements that is attuned to a musical piece. Well, of course, in every time that we dance, it always, no, have a music. No? It always have a musical piece that will give us, no, let's say a real meaning. We can create more an emphasis while we're dancing, and we have body movements created, no, dun sa steps na meron tayo, no. So yung beat, yung harmony, yung melody na meron din tayo in the music will also be a part of the dance. So kaya nga you amaze because of the body movements na that portray to the music, that is a very sasabihin natin hindi nag-jump to another one, but this is a fit, no, fit because it is it accompany the same meaning or the idea of how is it being presented on you, no, in front of you as an audience. It is a form of a worship. It could be a form that many things that we can create. It's a form of dance na meron tayo. So it's not limited only on the worship one, but more so in our Philippine folk dances that we have, yung dance na meron tayo. Like yung tinikling, no? Yung tinikling natin, hindi naman siya yung ano lang, yung sa kawayan lang na yung pagtatapat nila o pagsasalpukan na ki-create ng sound. It's not only on that, but more so yung tinikling natin, yung saliw ng music and the body movements, no, that being put together and become an active one to para to move to another step na meron tayo para hindi ka lang maipit. And more so yung tinikling, it can create something na yung sa pagiging Philippine, one of the prominent folk dances in the Philippines na meron tayo. Yung unique criteria and unique idea na meron siya. Yung singkil, isa rin sa mga magandang dances na in our Philippine folk traditions that you can be proud of making of, no, in the ballet, no, na meron tayo. Not ballet, no, the ballet one na meron tayo. So next one is the literature. So what do we have in literature? We already know that the uses words express thoughts, ideas, and feelings, but through how, no, through how. So we have poetry. If you are known to make, no, a good of poetry, like yung mga poem that masterpiece na meron tayo, you are a poet. You are called as a poet, no? Not an author, na tinatawag natin, or writer. You are a poet. Then when you are into a novel, creating something and creating an ideas, you are a novelist, no? Right? So we have the short story, we have author, no? We have the essay, no? The that you can call, no, as an author then also, no? And then epic, legends, to mention a few that we have many more. So here some examples are the Homer's Iliad and Nick Cookins woman who had two navels. So nakakasaya kung babasahin ito yung Homer Iliad, one of the great works, and yung Nick Watkins, one of the most prominent writers in the Philippines, si Nick Watkins, if you want to know to read their stories and their works, no, about literatures. While yung theaters naman natin is the act of performance of drama that the usual one, no, that we see, no, that the Phantom of the Opera and Dolly Mitangere one. But this one is become eventually, no, drastically changed and hindi ko man sinasabing nawawal, but drastically change and change over the time, pwedeng ganun, that could be an TV motion kasi recorded na eh. At ito kasi this is an actual performance and you will witness, no, the live performance of the theater actors and actresses during this presentation of, like for example over here, no. Good thing that we have here is yung ating University of the Philippines, the Philippine Normal University. They are very good and well known for this kind of performance of drama, and still they are achieving the goals of parang mabuhay pa to continue tong theater act na meron tayo. So lahat naman ng mga artists and lahat naman ng mga type of actors and actors that we have right now in the TV motions, are most of them are have an experience of theater act or theater mga experiences, no, or mga theater ano nila tawag dito yung pagpasok, yung pag-training nila. So we have also yung including of photography, digital arts installations are the newest one in our creating an art firms now. So these are most, no, thing that we can see right now. But yung mga painters natin, there are few na lang. Yung mga photography, they are very well said na katulad niyan. We have yung mga the features ng mga cameras that we have, that you can create digital arts without the brushes, without yung pinaka medium natin, no, but itself yung kanyang color and the digital one, the multimedia arts, you can create na easily. But the disadvantage of this one is what if there is no power, no, not that you're talking to, maybe the digital arts were not, no, cannot be created, and then we're only limited in such of experiencing the true nature of how to become an artist, no, in the field of painting. But we have installations in the sculpture one, in the architecture, no, and engineering field. And let's move to the next one. We have appreciating the arts from the view of the artist, no, and the period, the culture, the society in which it was created. Very known, no, to know that appreciating the arts is something to do with viewing the artist, no, and we will analyze them, no, in the period of itself, no, why is it being created on that one, and why is it not being portrayed and such of that we have, no, and what are the cultures in such a particular time that describe that the artworks na in appreciating, and why is it not being done, and this one is an amazing type of art, no, compared to nowadays that we have, arts or before that we have arts. Then in appreciating the arts, we have giving a good physical description of the artwork based on their knowledge of the art elements and materials. So basically, an art elements, the elements of arts, no, that we're talking to, yung harmony, balance, proportion, no, rhythm, emphasis, these are such of the elements that must be considered, that must be focused and have a knowledge of them. But without ditong mga dinto ay hindi natin siya maka-create yung pagiging appreciating sa arts na meron tayo. It is because I do not know and understand better yung appreciation of arts. It is, no, ano ba yung meron doon behind, of course, in the arts. So next is yung materials that being used, no, during that time and period. Why is it the artist na is being used kind of materials and they are only depending on that? It is because of the resources only that are present on their time. And give a physical description is something to do what I mentioned from the knowledge of the art elements and materials. Without of these two things, no, it cannot be a good, no, physical description. You cannot create no additional an idea, no, doon sa isang artwork na gusto mong gawin. If you are, no, but you are appreciating the arts at this point. Next, you have the analyzation, or the analyze the artwork in terms of what the artist wants is for to represent in their learners' subjective reaction to works, which includes their thoughts and feelings. Now, at this point, you will critically analyze the work in terms of what this artist wants to tell on you. That why is it this artist put them this one and then have this one, and why is it being created on the ways of this one? No, because they want you to analyze and critically, subjectively, no, think of it. What are the different subjective reactions and the attempt, no, to describe such one of art form that we have in the artworks, no, and it's accompanied by including your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, your notions, no, your weighing of ideas, no, and the way of how you describe such matter, no, and your critical analyzation or analyzing an idea. Next, perceive the artwork in the context of its history. Yes, that is why now we have different periods, we have different time that must be known, and why is this context in this history itself describe its own uniqueness to other period or every time that we have when it comes to the history of the arts, no, or artworks. And this will enlighten the learners of the artist's intention in doing the work and the act of understanding the meaning of work, no, it's supposed to convey to. So, like for example, like what we have during the Spanish era, so we can criticize them that more of his artworks in the sculpture, painting, teachings, literature, no, and even in the other forms of the cultures that we have. Let's just take a look of that. That the art's intention something to do with the context of its history, that being portrayed and a picture of the more on the religious perspective, no, or religious character, so that more of his time, now of his contribution on the artworks of this context of history is more on the biblical characters that portray until now that is being understood by the meaning that we have now, that we convey, no, right now. Next, in appreciating the arts, we have giving meaning to the artwork based on its description, analysis, context. So like what I said, no, from the end, the other slide, no, yung number 2, yung you analyze, you give the meaning, you putting them now. And this is now your perception of how is it being looks, no, and how is it being described by you, and analyzing them, no, the idea of conveying to, and giving the meaning of an artwork makes us na beautiful and makes us amazed doon sa mga idea na nandoon. So like what we have an activity from the recent, no, yung sa isang tanong, isang sagot, like yung kay Mona Lisa, you have mentioned too many, no, and these things are being a part of giving the meaning of an artwork based on the description, analysis, and the context, right? So these are the appreciating the arts. How is it being expensive? How is it become a popular and known one in the field of painting and arts, in the artworks, no, creatively. Judge the artwork is to whether it is good or bad based on the learner's perception to it and its aesthetic and its cultural value. Yes, that's why in every competition, it always shows and must have possess in such a criteria because we are judging an artwork based on its value, based on its aesthetic, based on the idea, how is it being portrayed and described, on its description, and whether it's a good or a bad one, and the continuity of ours, no, of ours history, ours we perceive and see the arts na meron tayo. Okay? So, let's take a look yung more, yung ating meron tayo sa appreciating the arts. Sabi din dito, essential to man's understanding of himself and his psychic need to seek expression. Yes, it is true that the psychic of his expression of human beings and understanding of works not to himself is something to do with yung psychic na tinatawag. Lagi na siya ang kaakibat. We have yung side comments na tinatawag. We have yung side comments naman na hindi naman siya negative, but this is a more on the positive, the constructive criticism and how do you look them as a kind of process. Sasabihin mo na lang for you, it is not hindi katulad ng iba na ang perception is very amazed, very good, such very positive words for them not to describe. But for you, it's an expression only of the psychic of this is my expression, this is only my intention, and this not for you to to give you an unbalanced meaning or something that is not good enough for your ears. Not to say these words. No, these are your expression. These are my psychic. No, that telling my own opinion and an understanding to his one thing na meron siya. And one thing is, sabi pa rin dito, is transcends time and space. Yes, we put our time and self in the space that we have before and right now. And these all are still impact extent in human societies and world cultures. So eventually, itong meron tayo na pinag-aaralan na madiscuss natin later on or further dun sa meron tayong meetings is we will tackle yung mga world cultures, human existence in societies that we have, and etc. Like what they doing right now, yung mga anthropologists, I don't know the name of this one, the archaeologist one, that the one who retrieve the fossils or the evidences from the early periods, like yung mga coffins in the mummy ating sa pyramid. These are the things that we could say, and the time and space that we create and have an human impact na tinatawag natin. And eventually, it become a part of the world cultures that we discover, and we know then the traditions that we have based on the aesthetics of the culture that we have. And art is here to stay. Yes. Since wala naman sila mga buhay, art is here to stay. It is bound them in this world sa earth na to. So, nakatatag lang sila dito at di sila mawawala. Like what we have in the music, the architecture. Namatay man yung nag-architect, namatay man yung mga gumawa niyan ng mga musical or mga literary arts. But still, that the art is there and stay for long. And the permanence itself, yung ganyang beauty, it always makes them shines to make create a uniqueness na meron tayo sa iba't ibang types of arts in the forms of arts na meron. And this art is a man's legacy that we can create. So like what we have in the literary arts, like what then they result, di ba? It's a legacy, and until now, it's a strong legacy that support by our Republic Act, yung mga batas na meron tayo, that the teachings of the works of the two nobles of Rizal, Danoli and Anfili, should be taught in the tertiary level in the private and the public institution, and must have the original copy, and does not omit any kind of meaning of it or any idea of changing of the original copies of this one. So it is a man's legacy that we have in our life, that we appreciating the arts. And okay, that will be the end of our discussion for this afternoon. These are my references in presenting my presentations for you. So these are the references that you might be able to visit and you can check out now for more. But the